Welcome to the JoinTheTrades.com interview series where we talk to tradespeople and learn more about successful career paths straight from the source. Today I have with me Michael Anders, who is an HVAC technician and has been in the trade for 5 years. How you doing, brother?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it'll be fun to talk.
Yes.
Give us an idea. How'd you get started?
Well, for many years I did a gamut of many different things, and about 40 years old, I kind of got thrown into a maintenance position for an apartment complex, which had a lot of HVAC problems. And
Okay.
so I hung around a lot of HVAC techs, which really kind of got my brain thinking on maybe I should really get into this. And this was about 40 years old, so I decided to enroll in school. And around between 40 and 41 years old, somewhere around there, I can't remember specific, I started school. Graduated around
Wow.
42, and I've been doing the trade for the last 5 years. And I actually got my first apprenticeship 6 months into my schooling, which is unheard of in our trade. I made a whole bunch of cold calls when I first started school to a bunch of companies saying, hey, listen, I'm starting school. I want to do an apprenticeship. This is what I want to do. I got nothing. And then about 6 months in, a company called me and said, hey, we want to put you on our apprenticeship program. Usually it's at least a half a year or a half of your course before you actually start the apprenticeship. So
Wow, so that worked out for you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it was a very small company, but it gave me the start what I needed.
Oh, that's great. So you reinvented yourself at 40 years old.
Right.
That's super exciting.
I drove school bus. I was a mechanic. I did security at casinos. I did all sorts of different things. And I finally found what I love. And I absolutely love what I do.
So you've been bouncing around like so many of us do. I've been doing that myself off and on throughout my life.
Yes.
Doing odd jobs, making ends meet, and then you stumbled into something that you really enjoy. What was it about these other techs that you were meeting that made you so intrigued by the career?
First, it was their knowledge base. Their wealth of knowledge for the equipment that they were working on.
Sure.
It helped me understand the equipment I had to maintain, if you will. On top of it, they really loved what they did, or they do, not did, but they do. And I started tinkering with some of the stuff within the building to try and maintain it myself without having to call them. Well, in the end, I had to call them because it was beyond my scope of knowledge.
Sure.
But I hung around them and I got to learn about the equipment. I got to learn about how BFDs work. I got to learn how three-phase motors work. I got to learn how mini splits work. And these are all the things that we had in this building. And it was very enlightening, and my brain just started going crazy. I was like, I have really got to do this. I will not do it in this building, but I will do this.
Yeah, you had enough negative experiences in that building to know the
Sir.
trouble. So you found it intriguing. I guess, the mental challenge of it, right? On
Yeah.
some level.
I graduated with a 4.0 in my class and student ambassador.
Wow.
Yes, I had an awesome instructor. I went to a school called Porter and Chester here in Connecticut. And
Cool. Well, actually, tell us how you discovered that school. How did you find them?
I actually did a Google search. I found tech schools in the area. There's a couple here in Connecticut. There's Porter and Chester. There's Lincoln Tech.
Okay.
Some of the high schools offer an after-school program for adults. I wasn't that my industry that I was looking into was not offered in that particular, but I stumbled across Porter and Chester, and it was a 18-month program.
Okay.
I was leaning towards Lincoln Tech or Porter and Chester, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And within a month of when I started looking, I was already enrolled.
Great.
And I started looking in September, and my first day of school was the end of October. and I never looked back.
Oh, that's so cool that you found your niche, you found your place.
Yes.
So since then, you've just felt comfortable at home and very satisfied with your choice.
Absolutely. There have been rough days. I started out in the residential field doing residential install and service. And obviously, for the first 2 years, I was an apprentice. So you're kind of someone else's puppy, if you will, because you're learning the trade. But I learned a lot from a lot of the technicians that I hung around. And I decided about almost 3 years into the trade, I said, you know what? Actually, it was about 2 years into the trade. I decided I want to do commercial. So I stepped out of residential and stepped into commercial, and it was the best decision I made. I love commercial. It's a lot bigger equipment. What's that?
I said, wow. So
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, what are the specific differences?
Besides the size of the equipment,
Yeah.
the variety is a lot greater. Whereas in a home you have, unless you're like a Maytag guy, and I don't want to use that whatever, but in a home you don't do a lot of appliance refrigeration repairs. It's mostly split systems, mini split systems. Down south it's more common for the outdoor unit to be venting inside the house, and that provides cooling and heating. Up here in Connecticut, that most of them have split systems, and they have a separate heat system.
Okay.
My parents live in North Carolina. They have an outdoor unit that heats and cools the whole house. But in commercial, it's a lot different because you have one system for most of them, one system that does everything. It heats the whole building. It cools the whole building. Obviously, there's several parts that are involved, but we also have refrigeration within our field because big companies require refrigeration, and we can do that within our field. So I've done cooling, heating, refrigeration, and it's one of the things I love about the trade is no matter where you go, it doesn't matter what part of the world you live in.
Yeah.
It is required for us to be there, whether it's heating, cooling, or refrigeration.
Yeah, for sure. That's totally true. Yeah, there's very few spots in the world that are just perfectly, 68 degrees and sunny all day long.
Yeah, well, like we were in the Bahamas and they needed AC.
Sure.
So we actually did a service call to a building while we were in the Bahamas.
Wow.
Yeah, with one of the residents on site. It was actually one of the friends of the owners of the school that we were down there.
Okay.
So they had a very big issue, which they're going to address. But we all, as students, we went with the instructors and went to the service call.
Okay.
And it was, and it was a volunteer basis. Not everybody went, but we went, and the few of us that did go, we tried to find the problem, and because of the way that it's set up, it was hard to find the problem, but I think we came to a resolution that this is what the problem is, and, this is how you're going to have to fix it. And unfortunately, it's probably going to be a total replacement. But
oh, no.
But down in the Bahamas, it's heat, AC is required. It's just,
right.
Unless you live on the shore and you get the ocean breeze, it's an uncomfortable, but they're used to that.
Undoubtedly. But that was a perfect opportunity for you as students to actually step in and help make a difference at that level even.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we learned a lot from the instructors, not only in classroom, but on this particular service call. We talked about a few things here and there. And that was, the trip was an awesome experience. The learning of it was just as awesome. It's just, I love what I do.
It sounds like it. Yeah, I have no doubt that a trip to the Bahamas was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So your normal average day goes how? You get up and then what?
Well, we have the company I work for provides us a vehicle.
Okay.
So my office is my van.
Nice.
and we get a list of where we need to go for the day, depending on if we're in service or in installation. In my company, we call it projects, but on the list of things, it says, all right, well, you're going to go here. Last week, I was in Agawam, Massachusetts. I was in Holyoke, Massachusetts. So we travel wherever we need to travel to do the service that needs to be done.
Sure.
We cover Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts.
Wow.
And yeah, the company just recently paid for every technician to get Rhode Island licensing. So I am not only Connecticut licensed, but I'm also licensed in Rhode Island.
Wow. It sounds like your company is on the ball and takes care of you.
Yes, they're a very good company. It's the best company I've worked for yet. And I don't plan on moving anytime soon.
Oh, that's great to hear.
But as far as the work goes, if we finish a job, it's usually on our calendar that tells us, all right, well, this is where you go next. And obviously we have to let dispatch know and this and that. But we have information sent to us through our phone, through an app, through our phone. I'm sure you've heard of Salesforce.
Yeah, sure.
We use that for our communications back and forth between the office staff and the sales, the teams. And it depending on what the job requirement is, or I guess you could say not the job requirement, the scope of work would be the better way to put it. It varies day to day what we do.
I bet.
Like one day last week, and well, actually for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I was installing 2 split systems, a 15-ton and a 10-ton unit. It was a split AC unit with 2 condensers on the roof, reusing existing line set, which was a bit challenging.
Okay.
Because it just appears in the wall. Yeah, well, you don't know what size are in the wall, so you're kind of just guessing at that point.
Yeah. But you enjoy these challenges, right? You seem like
absolutely.
You enjoy that.
Absolutely. They just legalized in the last, and I'm not trying to plug it, but they just legalized the use of marijuana in Massachusetts.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And there's a company in Massachusetts that is expanding. Now, I'm not going to plug them because that's their business. But they're expanding to another location in one of the towns in Massachusetts, twice the size of what they had already. And we were there for 6 months putting in equipment.
Wow, cool.
And ductwork and stuff. So, and that was fun. It's, it varies day to day what we do. I mean, we could be doing refrigeration one day, ductwork the next day, and then going on a service call the following day.
Yeah, but that's interesting, huh? Because then it's never always the same rigmarole. There's always something new, I imagine.
Yes.
So you were on that project for 6 months, but then some days you're going somewhere different for one day or for a couple of days?
Yeah. They'll call us off and say, hey, I need you to go here. We're currently kind of short-staffed because we had a transition and change of people within the company. And so they'll send me to a different town to do something else, or they'll send another technician to go do something else, so on and so forth. And they, so it's not always that we're stuck in the same place all the time.
Sure.
And we don't have the same thing every day. I mean, yes, this project was all ductwork. And if I see it, I used to tell people if I see another piece of ductwork, it will be too soon. But within that project, I was pulled away to do other service calls and other projects. So it wasn't steady, always there. It was a variety. And I know that's where you're getting at.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine that's something that's nice to get a little break or do something a little different, and then of course you're learning, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're learning different projects as you go, and then a little time for that to kind of like, I don't know, maybe the information to soak in a little bit, and then you get to use it again some other time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have a gentleman that works with us who is our duct guy.
Yeah.
He knows ductwork like the back of his hand, and we are taking a lot of things from him. So I didn't know a whole lot about big duct. And we're talking 56-inch by 36-inch duct, big stuff.
Okay.
And they're like 6 foot lengths, massive
Wow.
duct
Wow.
work. And that's what he lives for. But we were helping him in that respect, and he was actually kind of giving us pointers in here and there, and I picked up a lot of stuff from him from that. He loves steam. He's like, I will do a steam boiler all day long, every day. If I have a steam question, I call him. If I have a ductwork question, I call this guy. So the great thing about our trade is there's so many people and proficient in so many different realms within our field that I will never, ever have to guess. I can always call someone and ask. They're my work family. You know, I treat them as brothers and sisters in the trade.
Right.
And we have women that work for us that are actually in the field. And I know that's huge because there's a lot of individuals that think that women should not be in that kind of workplace. And I disagree. I think that if they can handle it, by all means, step in and do it, you know?
Right.
There's the old schoolers, the old timers that think that women should not be in the trade, but
Sure.
you got to change with the times.
Yeah, I had an interview with a gentleman not too long ago who mentioned that about at least women students. He was a teacher, and he said some women are some of my best students for sure because of the fact that sometimes they're a little bit more specific minded than guys are. You know, like that's fascinating. You know,
just do the best that you can do, and show everybody else you're capable of it.
Right? Absolutely.
And they all they can do is, well, forgive the term, shut up or put up. You know,
that's super cool.
Because you know, if you're going to complain about somebody or because it's a woman in the workplace, if they can do just as good of a job as you do, what does it matter? I am on the apprenticeship for my S2, which is, I don't know how it works where you are, but in Connecticut you have your D2 license, which is, well, best way to put it is we don't do wet. So a D2 license doesn't do hydronics. A D2 license doesn't do oil unless you're under the license of an S1.
Okay.
And under the apprenticeship of an S1, which I am under the apprenticeship for an S2, for my S2.
Okay.
And so I can work with people, and I can still do S2 work because I'm apprenticeship under it, and my boss has an S1 license. So we still do all of that stuff. We do oil very rarely because in the commercial industry, I don't know if you know much about commercial industry, very little oil in commercial industry. Very, very little. Like, it's mostly gas and mostly chillers, like for the hydronics, whether it's water or glycol.
Okay.
And the large refrigeration. But there's very, very little oil. I think there's maybe some schools, because we do a lot of schools, still have oil in their systems. But on the whole, 90% of our customers are gas. Ours is probably one of the most ever-changing industries because of the migration of the equipment. You know, before we had magnetic starters, we had contactors, we had this. That's how systems ran. It was either on or off. Nowadays we have they call it variable frequency drives, also known as VFDs. And they can vary the speed of the motor down to 10 hertz. And you can modulate the speed of the motor, and all the electronics within that system are ever changing and becoming more and more computerized. Just like in the automotive industry, everything's becoming more and more computerized.
Sure, of course.
The mini split industry and the split industry, mostly mini splits, are becoming a lot more advanced and computerized. I can call a Mitsubishi representative or a Mitsubishi, and I'm not trying to plug them, I'm just using them as an example. that I can call and I can say, hey, listen, this is my problem. How do I solve this?
Of
Or how
course,
can
of
I
course.
approach this? Usually they give you kind of like a flow chart idea. Well, if you have this problem, then this, you have this problem, then this, you have this problem, then this.
Right.
And it usually helps us get through. And then I pick up on that. And
Right.
then for the next time I need to do it, I've already learned what they just talked about.
Gotcha. So correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the cool play parts then about the trade, about your trade specifically, but I'm sure many other trades, is that even as technology advances, there's no concern that the individual themselves is going to be obsolete.
We are one of the few trades that is always going to be there. We will never be computerized. We will never be, turned into robots. I hope not. But we
Right.
have there always has to be somebody getting their hands on something
Yeah.
to verify refrigerant levels, to verify change of belt. These things can't be computerized. They can't be done by a robot.
It's excellent. It's the ultimate job security. Yeah, as technology advances, as artificial intelligence advances, as all this
Right.
advances, it does not
Exactly.
negate the need for a human individual to be there
Yeah.
and to make
That
sure
was
it's
one
all
of the
running
reasons why I
properly.
got into it. But yeah,
Oh, that's super cool.
if you mention to someone,
Okay.
grab me this or grab me that, and they go, what? We have a problem.
Right.
But if they're willing to learn, if they don't know it and they're willing to learn what it is, then that changes the scope of what I was just saying. But it usually helps if you have somebody who has a mechanical understanding. I mean, I worked on cars. I've done a bunch of other things where I was always using my hands, and so I had a one up, if you will. But there are people that I would look at it, and also
Sure.
being able to use their head. You have to be able to think outside of the box sometimes to figure out a problem,
Okay.
because it's not always in black and white. Sometimes you have to create a problem to find a problem.
Right.
And my boss actually says we do safety meetings and we do training meetings
Interesting.
almost regularly. And one of his things is try to create the problem, because you cannot fix a problem if you don't know what it is. You
Fascinating.
bring your car to the shop because you have this certain complaint. They keep it at the shop for a week. It never happens.
Right.
You get it back. A week later, that problem comes back. And that's something that he tries to tell us, hey, listen, I need you to cause it
right,
to
of course,
create
yeah.
the problem that we're sending you out for. Whether you disconnect this or disconnect that, or, cause the thing to fail.
I see.
The
Yeah, that's a
VFD
great
to fail,
analogy.
or whatever it's causing, that's causing this alert. Make it happen so that we can fix the problem and we don't have to come back for the same problem. If we come back, it's for a different problem. Great.
Yeah.
But, if it's a continuous problem, obviously we haven't figured out what the problem is. Let's make it happen so that we can fix it. And that's where thinking outside of the box, in my opinion, is very crucial. So the
Yeah.
reward of just the appreciation of what we are able to accomplish is enough for me. Making people appreciate what we do
Yeah.
as tradespeople and repair service. It's rewarding just to see the reactions of people on a positive scale to what we've done. Yes, we get the negative feedback. It's going to happen. But, the rewarding part of it is that we
Sure.
try to make people happy. The saying goes, while you're cool inside the building, we're sweating our butts off. And while you're inside being comfortable, we're freezing our butt off. That kind of deal. And that's
Right.
that's where I want, as far as
Yeah, that's so
people
true.
that watch and, and to see what we do, that's what I want to see if they can, get them to appreciate, is the fact that we're not always going to be inside the building with you working on the equipment. We're going to be outside freezing our tushes off or sweating our butts off, trying to fix what's not working so that you can be comfortable.
Right. Yeah, these are the things that we,
Yeah.
as lay people, just take for granted. Well, oh, my temperature should be nice. Why is it not perfect? What, and we completely take it for granted until
Yeah.
we end up having to call someone out who actually is an expert. And for lack of a better term, at that point, that's a hero. That is someone who honestly is coming in to make your life substantially better. Thanks for being here, everybody. We'll see you next time on the jointrades.com interview series. Take it easy, Michael.